Good evening, beautiful people. My name is Francisco Vasquez.
And I'm Dia Vasquez, and we welcome you to the 2020 Project Involved Shorts Film Q&A. 2020 was a truly eventful year, and despite immense challenges, the fellows rose to the occasion to make the beautiful and moving shorts that we'll be discussing tonight. We are immensely proud of these fellows and their ability to make art during such a dark and confusing time.
The 2020 Project Involved program transitioned very early to online sessions. It was a challenging but ultimately rewarding experience. A 2020 fellow called Project Involved a light in the darkness, a place where we could find community. And this light in the darkness shines ever so brightly due to the generous sponsors of Project Involved. Without their support, this program wouldn't be possible. Thank you to Project Involved lead sponsor, Warner Media.
We would also like to thank our principal sponsors, Company 3, City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs, Hollywood Foreign Press Association, Loyola Marymount School of Film and Television, National Endowment for the Arts, and Panavision.
And thank you to our supporting sponsors, Amazon Studios, Easter Seals Disability Services, Formosa Group, Los Angeles County Department of Arts and Culture, Participant, SAG Indie, and Sony Pictures Entertainment. Additional support is provided by NCRAL, the Indiana University Jacobs School of Music, and Consonant Music. And a very special thanks to our official partner, Vision Media, for the first look screening. And to add the proverbial cherry on top, or as I like to say, the guacamole on my tacos, the following supporters provide a 10,000 grant to support the creative work of individual filmmakers in Project Involved. Amazon Studio Film Fellowship to Yesenia Ruiz, Easter Seals Disability Services Project Involved Fellowship went to Andrew Reid, LMU School of Film and Television Project Involved Fellowship went to Tabatha Laanu. The Panavision Fellowship went to Alan Ho. Participant Fellowship in Project Involved went to Olotuye Adegboro. And Sony Diversity Fellowship went to Brandon Tarver. Congratulations to all of you. It was almost extremely difficult, I'm sure, for all the fellows, for the sponsors to select the fellows. So our deepest gratitude to all of our supporters, and thank you for helping make Project Involved a unique and visionary program like no other in the world.
And we are thrilled to introduce you to our moderator for this Q&A, 2021 Project Involved Programming Fellow Ash Hoyle. Ash is an integral member of the programming team at the Sundance Film Festival, working as an associate shorts programmer and supporting director of programming Kim Yutani, who is also a Project Involved Fellow. He is also the director of programming of Damn These Heels Film Festival, run by the Utah Film Center, as well as a senior programmer at Outfest Los Angeles. Welcome, Ash, and of course, welcome to the 2020 Project Involved Fellows.
First, I want to just express my deepest congratulations to this cohort of fellows for the incredible films that you made as part of the Project Involved program. It's an amazing collection of films to watch, and I think it absolutely is a testament to your resilience as artists, and I'm sure the audience is all weeping, as I was when I finished watching your shorts all back to back. So tonight I'm going to talk to each film team and ask them a couple questions myself, and then we'll all gather together to talk about the program as a whole. And at that point, we'll be taking questions from the audience as well. So without further ado, I would love to welcome to the virtual stage the team from Blackout. Hi. And we'll have you introduce yourselves before I hit you with some tough, hard-hitting questions.
Cool. Hi, I'm Andrew Reid. I'm the director.
Hi, I'm Yesenia. I'm the writer.
Hi, I'm Tabatha. I'm the producer.
Hi, I'm Alan, cinematographer.
And Brian is with us as well. We didn't hear you, but we are very excited that you're here. No sweat, we've all been there. Again, congrats to you guys. This is an amazingly innovative way to work around some of the production challenges that came with last year. And my first question is sort of about that. I'm wondering what it was like for each of you in your different roles to work with actors who couldn't inhabit the same physical space, and what you did creatively sort of in each of your roles to work around that.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. So, you know, it was definitely, I think we all have our own stories, you know, our own challenges with COVID, as we all navigated it with the different projects. But specifically with Blackout, we actually were able to find a situation where, you know, the studio space to isolate the two crew members, so that when one was on set, the other was in a separate room, you know, maintaining to all the rules and regulations that SAG had provided. And then we made sure to be very conscious with a COVID certified officer, and, you know, Brian, who was on set, you know, can elaborate more on it, but, you know, we were able to maintain safety while actually having the opportunity to have two actors inhabit the same space.
Yeah, and you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
All right, there we go. So yeah, just to piggyback on what Andrew was saying, a lot of it was, you know, really following the guidelines that SAG has set forth in the new way forward when they released that guideline. And, you know, just making sure that everyone felt comfortable while we were on set. You know, this is still very early on into the pandemic, and everyone's trying to figure out how exactly do you shoot in the middle of a pandemic like this. And so making sure that everyone felt safe being around others, knowing that everyone got tested, you know, just following those guidelines that SAG set out was very crucial.
Yeah, and Andrew, as a director, what gaps did you feel like you had to fill in because your actors couldn't actually play off of one another?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. I think that was one of the challenges with this project. There was a lot of theory at play, you know, with the VFX and, you know, not being in the same space, you know, being able to chat with each other. But what we did do was, you know, just piggybacking on what Brian said as just a second ago, was that we were able to actually have the other actor at a distance communicate, just read the lines with them, to have someone to go back and forth with, you know, because that,
Nice.
you know, as you can do, you know, definitely helps the talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And they really played off of each other in an amazing way, despite the distance, for sure. But what was so fascinating to me, the use of the reflection in the helmet, I thought was such a brilliant sort of connector between their two physicalities, and it moved the plot along so well. So I'd love to know, how did you come up with that idea, and especially in the post process, how did you execute that?
I'm trying to remember how we came up with that idea. Because it felt like intrinsic to the idea from the beginning, that we wanted to be able to have both of them on screen, and to be able to interact as much as we could. And I mean, like, we were inspired by stuff like, you know, like the Iron Man HUD, stuff like that. So we're just like, oh, this is like an easy, like, technological way we can put these two people in the same space without actually being the same space. It was like I don't know, a fun cheat.
Alan or Marco, how did you kind of make it happen in the end?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of going off what they were saying, I think the original plan was to try to shoot them separately so that we can be COVID safe. But that kind of like helped inform the story. And so yeah, one of limitations on my end is that we had to have a really, really small crew. So we had to do kind of very simplistic setups. And so that's sort of where the idea came from, where we can try to rely heavily on VFX and like have that kind of interaction that way.
Yeah.
And Marco, how did it go when you took it to post?
It went pretty well, to be honest. It was really well planned out from the beginning. You know, Andrew and Alan and already kind of had an idea of how it was going to be shot separately, and we all had the idea of that Iron Man HUD and vision like already in our head. So when it was coming to editing, it was really just picture in picture of just like taking Jim's character, and I would always put him in the bottom screen. And so it was kind of cutting both performances to really go back and forth. And that's something that me and Andrew worked on a lot in the edit process. But Andrew was able to get all the performances we needed out of it, from both actors. And so, to build those tensions and those emotions between each other. And so, yeah, it was just us watching two screens at the same time and just kind of like, seeing what works. And we had faith in our VFX artist, Tori, and he did great. He did a great job to make it work and make, you can see it for sure.
Absolutely. And to Greta and Tabatha, how did you sort of grapple with what really stands out about this film is that it almost doesn't even compute that it was made necessarily during COVID. So can you guys speak to the sort of creative executive and producer's perspective on what it was like to take on such an ambitious sort of production to sort of counteract these limitations?
So the whole idea of doing a space movie was kind of originated in the limitations that we had as a COVID production. We needed to come up with a concept that, could be shot in isolation. And that's sort of when this greater theme of like exploring space and how isolating that could be, and how 2020 made us all sort of feel like in isolation. So to sort of explain that theme, like thematically in a short, was kind of like the goal. And it's an ambitious project, but it made the most sense to our team because we were all very passionate about it, and it used our limitations as a strength instead of a weakness.
Absolutely.
And I give all credit to the team because I did the classic, like pull it back, spend less money, do less things, make it easier, make it simpler. And they really had vision and just, went for it. And I think the end product, you can really see the results of that passion and that sense of scope.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the perfect note to end on for now. We'll bring you back at the end, but I am going to now ask the Blackout team to black themselves out and head back stage. And I'd love to have the Hollow team join me now. Hello to all of you. My first question is sort of about the setting. This is obviously such a story that's domestic, really rooted in the home. Can you talk us through the importance of finding this location and how you did it?
Yeah, I'll start off. My name is Diante. I'm the director of Hollow. When Marianne, my writer, had to, hi Marianne, had to write this kind of a COVID short when we had to choose one location, minimal actors. We were trying to figure out ways to make it interesting and kind of make the location and character as well. And try to make the short have a little more feeling and a little more depth than maybe it would normally have under normal circumstances. When we made the decision to shoot this film in South Africa, in Cape Town, we realized, because Frankie, my wonderful cinematographer, is from South Africa, we realized that we were going to have to basically look at all these locations and scout these locations completely virtually. And so I trusted Frankie and the marvelous producers on the ground in South Africa to just like go to these houses one by one and take copious amounts of videos and photos and send them to us. And then we would pour over them, me and the producers, and just like, rack our brains about booking a location that we weren't able to actually visit and will never be able to visit. And so that was like a pretty surreal experience. And it came down to just trusting the team, trusting the people on the ground, and asking them like, what can we do? Do you think, we can accomplish what we want to accomplish? And them saying yes, and then just deciding to go with it, go for it.
Thank you. And you gave me a little hand here by helping to introduce some of your team, but we could also do a go around real quick to get everybody introduced. So go ahead.
I'm Diante, the director.
I'm Marianne, I'm the writer. Hey, I'm Lauren López de Victoria. I'm one of the producers.
Hi, I'm Tabatha. I'm the other producer.
Hi, I'm Nyla, the editor.
I'm Greta, the creative exec on this as well.
And I'm Frankie, the DOP, or Francis.
Fabulous. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, does anyone else want to speak to what the scouting was like and what you were kind of looking for the perfect location? Obviously, this is a really special, specific home, and it had such great, perfect attributes for the story.
I'll pop in a word saying that I was the only one who was able to scout.
Yeah.
But I think I think the producers, Tabatha and Lauren, like really created a space where the producer that they had working on the ground, Seba, could work with me to find spots. And there were several different locations, and Diante was really amazing in, it's hard when you're not in a space to kind of experience it fully, because wide angle lenses make everything look much more spacious. So Diante was really amazing with that, and like handing over like an element of trust and control in that sense. But it was a process of actually looking for houses that were empty, that were about to get rented. And then we checked out a bunch of them, came up with several options, and it was kind of tricky also because of COVID and all that kind of stuff and changing regulations. But we were lucky enough to find this house, which had a lot of character. Yeah.
It really does. It feels like a character itself. And wow, yeah, you totally landed on the right one in the end. So props on that work. From the director and writers and editors perspective, can you speak to how you conjured a character that doesn't actually appear on screen? This is really an amazing feat, and you feel the presence. So how did you achieve that from each of your sort of points of view?
Well, we had the kind of limitation of just having 2 people in a space. And I think I think about like childhood a lot, and like the relationship between like parents and their children. So it kind of made a little bit of sense to just include a child, and the aspect of grief allows you to like have the child but not have them be there. And then I spent a lot of time trying to explain the Care Bear situation to people. Like these bears that I saw the commercials for all the time when I was a kid, and you like press them and they start speaking. I thought that would be like a really cool way to bring someone into the space without physically having them.
And really quickly, what I'll say before I turn to Nyla is that we got very lucky because we were trying to figure out for a while. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but whatever. We were trying to figure out for a while who was going to be the kid, and we had like dates set and we had actors casted, but we didn't know who the child was going to be. And then we ended up shooting right next door to a school, Frankie, or it was something where there was like a lot of kids, and a kid was able to essentially, obviously with the permission, was able to come on set for like 30 minutes and just knock it out. So we got super lucky on that front.
Yeah, and adding to that, it was really a question of how to introduce the presence of the kid and at what point to introduce the presence of the kid. And so because this was a story that centered on grief, you needed to feel it almost immediately so you could understand like there was something going on between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say you can really actually feel that sadness and that grief even from the first shots. Producers or director, do you want to talk a little bit about how you kind of baked that in right from the jump?
I'll talk. I mean, I think like the purpose of getting a house that was really empty sort of helped to speak to like the environment that we were creating. And then the other like key piece is that we knew that this was a film that was going to be, because it's sparse, both like physically and I feel like emotionally also, it was going to be anchored in like the 2 leads performances. So it was really all about like the casting, which is really the first thing that we did, and that was all through our lovely DP, who should also be like a producer and exec producer on this, Frankie, who really moved mountains in South Africa and made the film happen.
Yeah, thank you. Diante, do you have anything to add to that? How you baked in that forlornness from the get-go?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just already in the script that Marianne had written. So it was most of it was just literally taking her words and making visuals of them, which is in essence the most basic form of directing, I guess. But then, you know, on top of that, it was also we were lucky to basically bake in a bunch of rehearsal dates ahead of time. And I look back at that, and I think it was one of the most like magnificent decisions we made, not just because you know, it made the shooting schedule smoother, but also because it gave me a lot of time with both actors individually and together to like really just talk to the characters, figure out where they want, like choreograph their movements, figure out what they wanted to do and say with their physicality. And then what helped as well is that they had worked together many times and known each other very well. So they already had a shorthand between them. And then, so all I had to do was to kind of learn their shorthand and kind of co-opt it. And so, yeah, just getting to know the actors and spending time with them, a lot of time with them beforehand, you know, it made it painless. So when we were actually in the set, it basically was just like cameras up, do what you've been doing, and then let's go home.
That's wonderful. Yeah, you definitely seem to work really well with the cast. You elicited some awesome performances. Thank you so much to the Hollow team. Congrats to you all. I will send you away. You can come back later on. And I'd love to talk to the team from Alma y Paz. And I'll remind the audience as well, we've got a Q&A box. And if you have questions for any specific team or the cohort as a whole, you can drop them in and we'll address those at the end. So feel free as they come to your mind to share them with us in the Q&A box. Cool, wonderful. Welcome to the Alma y Paz team. Do you want to go around and introduce yourselves?
I'm Brandon. I'm the producer of Alma and Paz.
I'm Sabrina. I'm the other producer.
Hi, I'm Jeanette. I'm the writer of Alma y Paz.
Hi, I'm Toya. I was the CE on Alma y Paz.
And I just wanted to say really quick that our director, Chris Gris, and our cinematographer, Andrew Yuyi Truong, couldn't be here. They're both on set today. But if there are any questions about either the directing or choices in cinematography, our team has spent a ton of time with them. And so we could probably speak to the intentions, maybe not as well as they could, but yeah.
I'm Bowie. I'm the editor.
Great. Well, welcome and thank you for bridging the gap to our cinematographer and director tonight as well. This is such an amazingly layered piece about family, and I'd start with Jeanette and just ask, how did you balance so many dynamics within this family when writing the script?
I think, yeah, the goal was to always tell a story about a multi-generational family, and in particular one that was made up of entirely of women and not questioning where the men were in the situation. I think, and this family sort of having like the middle Jenga block of their family, the mom being pulled out I think I really have to credit our discussions as a team of balancing all the dynamics of loss, of discovery, of hope, of nostalgia. And I think it was really about, it leaned a lot on the execution, actually. A lot of the dialogue is not they're not really saying what they want to talk about. So I have to really credit Chris's directing and helping us build those layers.
Yeah, absolutely. They really shone through. It's pretty amazing. And speaking of execution, I think one thing that I really responded to was the amazing color palette that you built. So producers from an execution perspective, or Boe from an editor's perspective, how did you accomplish that? And what was the sort of thinking behind how you put that together?
I think that was really Andrew and Chris's work. They built the color palette. We originally wanted to shoot on 60mm film, which ended up being really expensive. So we ended up doing a film out, and that was all spearheaded by Andrew and Chris. And I think their persistence really paid off, because we're really happy how it turned out.
You know, we reference a lot of films like The Wonders, A Brighter Summer Day, and We the Animals, all of which are shot on film, and all of which the majority of all of them take place outside of a lot, and sort of wanting to create this like bleached out, dreamy landscape where it feels like we're revisiting a time in the past, kind of to reflect the idea that grief is kind of an emotional place you can stay stuck in sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is another instance where I feel like you can really feel the setting as part of the beating heart of the story. So we're in that sense of home. Does anyone want to speak to what it was like selecting this location and what it meant to this particular film? Tough fun, hardball.
I mean, we kind of lucked out with the location. Brandon, do you want to speak to it more?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like Sabrina said, most of this part was, again, Chris and Andrew's selection. Because the film was shot in Mexico, Chris was already in Mexico at the time because, you know, she's from Mexico. We shot it in like Monterrey, Mexico. And since she was already down there, she had a location for the film, and she sent us pictures, and we was like, oh well, yeah, this will work best for the film. And we was like, we okayed it. Was like, yeah, we should go with this. And there you have it. We had a good location, and it wasn't a very expensive location because Chris had like a connection with the homeowner and stuff like that. So it was kind of like simple for us to like lock down on like the location agreement and solidifying the location for the shoot.
That house is actually, it belongs in her family. It's her grandparents' house. So it kind of added that layer of meaning for us. Yeah, it was special.
Totally. That's so resonant. Yeah, absolutely. That feels like it couldn't be more perfect. So that's really fabulous that it came together in that way. And then my last question for you guys is, what was it like sort of having such differently aged actors on set? And obviously, you know, from a directorial point of view, but, you know, you all being there and working on this film, what was that like? And how did you sort of juggle that?
I could speak to that. I mean, I'm not the director, I'm the producer, but I could kind of go with what Chris was going. Yeah, it was, I can talk from casting perspective because it was kind of challenging looking for a younger character in Alma and a grandmother character. It was kind of challenging because during COVID, you know, we had to make sure everything was okay with the grandmother because, you know, she's of age, and, you know, elderly people tends to, you know, get sick a little quicker. So we had to make sure that the set was, you know, completely clean and everything. And everything was very technical in the aspect of production wise. But again, Chris sent us, because we was doing everything virtually, Chris sent us auditions with each grandmother she had. She had multiple grandmothers. She had multiple Alma characters that she auditioned, and it was it was fun going through the process, but it was also challenging because Chris was like, "Who do I pick? Who do I pick?" So we kind of like all chimed in together, teamed in together, and help her make a selection. And once we saw that Alma and that grandmother audition tape, we was like, yeah, these two are the ones, and we need these two paired together so we can see what magic they can work on set. So that's kind of like how we came upon those two characters.
I just want to briefly mention Caro, Carolina Rodriguez, who was our co-producer in Mexico and who was a huge help and helped. I mean, she was part of the team. She should be here. And she helped with casting and locations and converting pesos to dollars and all of that. So shout out to Caro.
No, congrats to you all. It's an international production is no joke, and it really came off beautifully. So congrats to the whole team. I'm gonna send you away and bring you back later. And I'd love to have the Eugen team meet me on the virtual stage at this time. Hi, everyone, welcome. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Ruth Du, I'm the director.
Hi, I'm Becky, the DP.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, the editor.
Hello again, I'm Brian, one of the producers.
I'm Sabrina, the other producer.
Hi, my name is Agam Darshi. I'm the writer.
I'm Jen Goddesfeld. I was the creative exec.
Welcome, and congrats to this team as well. The first thing I want to talk about, I'd love to hear anyone's thinking on how you sort of envisioned the aesthetics of your audio and visual flashbacks, and how you brought them to life, how you translated that vision. They were so fascinating. Key piece here.
I think the challenge of having so many different kind of flashbacks and memories was how to differentiate them between real life. And so very early on, we knew that we not only needed the visual language for that flashback and that memory, but also we knew that we had the gift of working with Formosa and they were going to create some magic with us. And it was a little bit of play. I think Becky and I had a lot of conversations about what that visual language was, and we really took a huge risk by choosing a specific lens to make those feel different. I think it totally paid off. And I think in the post sound space, even playing with the temps of like what a whoosh sounds like and a wind atmosphere, all those elements came into play and kind of came together very, very magically in the final edit.
Absolutely. And either Caitlin or Agam, can you speak to, how obviously from a writing perspective that originated and then how you kind of brought it together in the post process?
Just from sorry, can you repeat the question?
Totally. Yeah. What was your sort of vision of the flashbacks in the script? And then of course, how did Caitlin kind of bring it home at the end?
Man. I have to admit, I don't think I actually made Ruth's job easy, because I don't think I just knew sort of the feeling that I was going for. And there was discussion about that afterwards in terms of how it would feel. But I really gave a lot of that credit to Caitlin and to Ruth and how they executed it. Because I think in the script, it was an experimental sort of story of a woman who was experiencing something. And I know I had the questions of like, is this flashback or is this a hallucination? Is this memory or what is it? And I wanted it to all meld into one. And I think Ruth and Caitlin really had to make the hard decisions as to like, no, this has to be specific enough here. So I give them credit for that.
Going off of what Agam was saying, I think honestly, it was a lot of trial and error. I was really focused on making sure to capture that feeling that the script had. I really wanted to make sure that carried through in the edit. And it was a lot of just testing out the flow of different scenes, even the placement of them. Me and Ruth collaborated a lot on just the editing. We are very much fine-tuning things because the film has barely any dialogue. So there was really a lot of freedom to explore. And we did a lot of exploration with the edit. And I honestly think it came out so good in the end. And I feel like we did capture what Agam was writing in the script, that feeling of grief and loneliness and how nature can overcome those feelings.
Absolutely. Well, props to you. You really all took it through, and the thread really, I agree. You totally nailed it in the end. The bird motif too is so effective in the film. Do the producers want to speak to a little bit what those challenges were, or obviously Caitlin as well, when you brought it to life in the end? Or you, Ruth, how it was directing someone to, you know, interact with something that probably wasn't quite there.
Well, I think I want to give this question to Brian, because this was something that our lovely Raven was a huge concern from the very beginning about how we would do it, how we would execute it.
Challenge.
I think he presented ultimately our VFX supervisor, Chris, to really hone it in, and so I'll kick it off to him.
Yeah, Ruth, you basically said everything I was going to say. No, it was the Raven, when we started to discussing that in the development phase, that was definitely one of the things that was like, all right, how are we going to get this shot, right? I mean, to the point where we were doing research in Idlewild about what kind of birds were there during that period of season. Like, we went full into it. And finally, you know, it was just, you know, let's shoot some plates. And I was like, I think I got a guy. I got a guy who can knock this out. And Chris, who was the VFX supervisor, just absolutely killed it. Absolutely killed it. And yeah, it turned out to be a beautiful kind of accent into, you know, the final product of this short.
Definitely. And Becky, do you want to talk a little bit about what it was like to shoot for this kind of thing?
Yeah, I remember on set we were like texting Chris and showing him, oh, what we're getting, like this is the plate we're getting. Oh, we have a few angles, and which one would you prefer, and what's the best angle for you to execute this in post. So there was a lot of communication between us, and I think that's the key for like VFX.
Yeah, 100%. And my last question for you is really for Agam again. I'm wondering, did the title and name come before the rest of the story or after, and how did they sort of inform each other?
Feels so long ago.
So unfair, I know.
I almost feel like the title came after. I think I just wanted to write about nature and the healing power of nature and grief and the deepest wound that I think anyone could have, which is losing a child. And then I stumbled on this beautiful word, and it just seemed to make a lot of sense. I think there was discussion around the word as well, right? There's different ideas of what the title should be. And I think at the end, everybody felt like Yugen was just, the meaning is so profound.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for reaching back into the recesses of your memory to conjure that up. Congrats to the whole team. I'm going to send you away, bring you back at the end. And last but absolutely not least, I'd love to bring forward the team from Omolara. And again, a reminder, if you do have questions for this or any film team, you can throw them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them all together at the end. Wonderful. Well, welcome. Do you want to go around and introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, everybody. Thank you so much, and thank you for having us, Ash. My name is Andrew Vasquez. For the purposes of Project Involve, I was going by my Spanish name, Andres. Don't call me Andreas. I just wanted to clear that out now. It's Andres. You gotta roll that R. You gotta roll it. I was the director of Omolara.
My name is Brandon. I'm one of the producers of Omolara.
I'm Nyla, the editor of Omolara.
Hi, I'm Karan. I'm the writer.
I'm TJ. I'm one of the producers on Omolara.
And I'm Jen again. I was the creative exec.
Hi, and I'm Vittoria, and I'm the DP.
Welcome to you all, and congrats on an awesome short as well. My first question, I'd love for whoever wants to jump in to speak a little bit to the structure and how you sort of brought this piece to life. Maybe it started in the writing, maybe you got creative with the different locations in these two really different worlds that speak so well to each other. Can you all kind of speak to how you put the structure together?
Yeah, I want to jump in because I saw Nyla instantly react. She was like, I can jump in. I mean, and then Vito and Karn and Nyla, we can just like, yeah. So myself and Vito and Karn, we were kind of like, the pandemic breaks out. Me and Vito meet at a park. She's like, I'm sorry, Andres, I'm going to Italy. I'm like, what? She's like, I gotta go. And we're like, okay, well, we got to figure out what kind of story we want to talk about. And we were talking about like, crap, like we need to have a camera in our hand. It was really important. She's DP. And, you know, her and I were sitting at the park and we were also on the phone with Karin. Like, we're just all kind of like talking. It was a really strange time. And, and we just started talking about, you know, what kind of motifs we would want to go with. And you know, we're all film nerds. Obviously, we're in Project Involved. And we talked about like Hiroshima Mon Amour. We talked about like And With Love, Saint Soleil, La Jetée. What can we do to kind of create this stuff? And yeah, so was kind of the impetus to kind of go and create this stuff. And then Karin, you want to jump in?
Hey, yeah, we were, you know, that conversation, we were kind of talking about how we wanted to do a story that can bridge and also tell stories between two generations. I think that was where a lot of it started, was this intergenerational story. And in terms of structure, you know, early on, it was an intention to show this idea of two couples taking a leap, and how I think a lot about people that came before us, my family and communities. And I think there's this kind of feeling of a leap that you take, whether it's immigrating here or, you know, starting a new relationship, moving somewhere, all of that. And so it was kind of thinking about what would happen if two generations that are linked had a conversation with each other, but weren't actually, you know, on the phone on each other's line. And so that was really a foundation of that structure. But a big part of what we wanted to do was find a way for the team to build something from that. You know, what the combination of how we cut, you know, how we layered, all of that, I credit so much to the team and Andres and Nyla and Vito and TJ and Brandon. And I feel like there was such a collaborative effort on that part while trying to honor the story. And Jen, you know, was always there, kind of reminding us of like our tent poles of this, you know, of like, all right, we want to do this. And so that felt like very freeing and special for me to get to build that from that foundation. So.
Yeah, and for producers and of course for the DOP here, how did you sort of work to visually differentiate between the two locations? Obviously, they're very different, but there's a definite texture to the geographies that you kind of achieved. So can you speak to the vision behind how you see these as both different and obviously really connected?
Yeah, it was very easy to make them look different. I think so that actually came very naturally. I think the challenge was on how to keep them cohesive and make sure that Nyla had enough material to create smooth connection. And that was one of the biggest challenge, I think, for me, because you know, the part in Venice, I was very hands-on, and Andreas. Okay, cool. He was like directing remotely, but on the part in LA, I was directing the photography remotely, and so that was different as well. And so the making them look different was easy. Making them flow and cut well together, I think a lot of it Nyla saved me. And so, you know.
And Nyla, we got to hear, how'd you do it? How did you string it all together so smoothly?
It's funny that you said the word structure in the first question, because that was the harping point for me when we first started. We have to nail the structure. If we nail the structure, we can figure out everything else and it'll fall into place. We went through a lot of iterations and eventually we found the one that clicked and felt right for all of us.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out really quickly Daniel Nyberg, who is a composer for Omalara. Because Nyla and myself, we were doing or cutting or like, what, like, we got to figure this out. And then once we threw down music, she's like, oh, Nyla said, like, that's how you like to cut music. Okay, I got you. And then it went like, we shifted. So big shout out to Daniel. Such a great collaborator. Super, very much thank you.
Well done. And I'm also really curious. I think that these actors established absolutely amazing chemistry, both couples really. Can you speak to how you made sure that that happened and how you made sure it came through in the final cut?
Me.
Sure, anyone.
Yeah, you know, again, another shout out to Greta, who is a friend of Karen's. She was a casting director here in Los Angeles. We were really fortunate. There were so many things that were transpiring, and she kind of came in, and yeah, she helped us get Haven and Aaliyah Royale to go and play the characters of Omo and Camilla. And yeah, so I mean, I think, you know, a lot of merit to the writing. Myself and Karen, we had a lot of conversations about the character development and especially in terms of migration and intimacy and secrets and hopes and fears. So like with working with the actors, Serena and with Miguel, who are amazing, and they kind of came in last minute. You know, thank God TJ hunted down one of our actors. She's like, we were up against the wall. We had like 2 days to be like, we're gonna go shoot. We need this actor. She's like, I'll find him. And then she gave me Social Security. She gave me, but she was able to find him, and they were just really willing to play. They were really willing to play. Everybody was. And, you know, I think because the production was at a moment where people really want to connect with other individuals and talk to them, have intimate moments, it really comes across. And it was, I mean, the crew and our crew in Italy was just, they were amazing. Everyone in Italy. And yeah, it just felt, I don't know, the sensibility, there's just this compassion for the process. So the actors just like, yeah, we'll try that. And, you know, they really invested their own personal feelings and their fears. And I think this is a time period in all of our lives, right? We're evaluating fears and hopes, and they just brought it. And we were just like, wow. And that goes for Aaliyah and Haven as well. So I know they had their own challenges trying to find that intimacy and being playful, and to watch them be so kind of carefree and kind of like be playful with each other, like, oh, remember that? Remember being there in that kind of moment? And it was really sweet to kind of witness these people. The rest of us were on fire while we're trying to do this production, but it was great to witness everyone else kind of play.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really does feel so poignant that all shines through. And I have to, now it feels obligatory since I asked the last team, Karen, did the name come first or second? And did it inform the story or vice versa?
Yeah, the name came very early on. And I think when thinking about this idea of generations and what connects us, I think names, food, these are things that we talked about that are huge foundations, and we put an aspect of food in there, but the name was big. And, you know, we were also thinking about, because we know we wanted to do a Nigerian daughter, we, you know, looking at names and different meanings, but also finding a meaning in a name that fit this idea of timing and you know, faith. And I think with the fact that the name has so much to do with being born at a time, you know, like that's really based on choices. And I think it was fitting, and we wanted to try to honor that in different ways. And over the course of the project, we adapted to making it much more about the couples and the name taking backseat. It did start out as more of a primary, especially in the writing, but yeah, and I have to also credit like Nyla's family and even Toye for helping by contributing something to the Yoruba aspect of it, and so I feel very grateful for them.
Shout out to Kunle, Nyla's dad, who helped us with the Yoruba, like legit did audio bites for Miguel. Wow. And then, yeah, he hung out and he's like, yeah, text him, hey, Kunle, we miss this. He's like, okay, yeah. You got
a family affair. That's
yeah,
so great.
So he was super sweet for doing that. Thank you, Nyla.
All hands on deck for that one. That's wonderful. And at this time, I'm going to ask all the fellows to come join the Omalara team and me. And I will say, I think we can all at least visually give you each other applause, because congrats on a really, really amazing slate. It's incredible what you accomplished. It would have been under any circumstances, but also definitely these. It's so great to be all together here, even in this way. And I have a couple questions for you as a whole, but a reminder, we'll take audience questions for the last little bit. And this is sort of broad, and I know you're all here, but anyone, please jump in and speak to this a little bit. It's so clear that grief kind of touched each of these films, and it comes through so strongly, especially when you watch them as a collection. So can you, any of you, speak to what you see as the connective tissue between one another's works, and also maybe why this is sort of the collective expression in this particular moment?
Yeah, if I can go first, so then
kick it off.
I can shut up. I think for me, like working with Karin, we were talking about this idea of hopes and fears, and being put into positions in which you really have to examine those hopes and fears. Sometimes it's isolating. It can be separated by an ocean, by space, by the passing of a loved one. That's within Hollow, and then also in Yugen. And how do you get to that other side? And as well as with Alma Paz, where we have the grandmother who's just not the grandmother, the mother who's not with us anymore. But where do you kind of reach out and connect with another individual? And for me, like personally, the thesis is more about reaching out, connecting to others in times of hardship, and bridging that isolation. And sometimes it's just reaching into yourself as well as within Yugen. So I feel like we're all just kind of reflecting on that idea of intimacy, either coming home to someone or coming home to yourself. So I really appreciated the piece and Project Involve, aka Pandemic Involve. We coined it. It's ours. But I think for me particularly, my mom was not feeling well. Her health was compromised for a bit, and it was really hard. And I think working through this piece with Omalara and working with Karin and with the team, it's just like, there's community, there's people on the other side. There's that kind of intimacy that you can kind of find, or a community. So super grateful, but now I'll be quiet.
I want to follow up with that. And I think I also noticed how connected all of these shorts are to each other in small ways and large ways. And something that really clicked for me, especially towards the end of last year when we were all kind of wrapping up and we were kind of recovering from our collective production experiences, is that we actually all collectively experienced the same kind of grief at one moment when we needed to pivot production in Project Involve. Like these projects weren't the ones that we were supposed to make in the beginning. We had dove in emotionally, physically sometimes into another story in the first couple months of the program. And then all at once we needed to pivot and adjust and do something else. And I think for some of us, that was like really intense because we were so ready to create a story that we all really kind of loved, right? So I think that's something that we all share, and maybe that kind of transpired into the stories that came out. That's kind of, my big picture, like, oh, maybe this is what happened to all of us. And I thought it was really interesting. But that's what happened. It was a thing.
Absolutely. They are so connected, and it makes sense. It was an experience you all had together. Does anyone else want to speak to, how they saw echoes of their work and anyone else's in the collection?
Really quickly, I just want to say, first off, Ruth is speaking facts. I think that's great. And second of all, it's funny because I got a call from someone in my family who said, "All these shorts are so dark and depressing and sad." And I was like, "You're right." I remember the screening that I went to that convinced me to apply to Project Involve. There were comedies and animated shorts, and they were full of different vibes and energy. But I think Ruth is right. I think it's just a commentary on where we were at collectively. We were all just down the dumps at home, couldn't leave, and we were just like, we're going to take out our frustration on our audience.
No, it came together so elegantly, and there's a cohesion there that I don't think could have even been curated. It was so organic that it all was shown through in that way.
Can I speak
Anyone
to
else
that
on
really
this one?
quick?
No, please, yeah.
So it is dark and depressing, but I will say I think another thing that connects all of our work is the idea of hope. So the idea that in loss that there's also a discovery of something else. That's it.
No, gorgeous and true. Yeah, there are a lot of hopeful notes in the program too. And to Ruth's point, I have to ask it at least a little bit. I'm so impressed, I'm sure the audience is too, about how creative you were able to get, especially considering you had to do it as a pivot. So writers and folks who supported writers through this process, how in the world did you come up with these things to deal with the stringent limitations you were under? Does anyone want to kind of speak to how you might have helped each other gain some inspiration and figure out how to use this time to make some films that, again, I think are sometimes almost unrecognizable as COVID shorts because of how innovatively you strategized around these things?
I think we, like us as the writers, and we had a writing advisor, her name is Ruth, great person, Ruth Atkins. But we had like this very short session where we kind of talked to each other about how we were feeling at the time, because our projects did die a slow death. But then also like what themes that we wanted to explore and like what we were all thinking, like all of these ideas, and we all kind of off of what Diante was saying, off of this feeling, had this like collectively came up with not like the same themes, but like very similar to one another, kind of organically. And I mean, I also think I love limitations, so I just always think that good creation can come out of thinking out of the box. And like, you know, my favorite word during our sessions was like, make sure you use your real estate correctly, which is basically means that like make sure you pick the specific things and really build them into like a beautiful house of a script. And I think we all really like achieved that.
I think also, I mean, it was such an enormous year last year for everybody, and our feeling bodies were also triggered, which for a writer is such a great place to be. As awful as it was just in some ways almost easy to just like get inspiration and download the ideas that we wanted to express, because we were all feeling it so tremendously. So there's I don't know, it's a hard thing to go through, but obviously like there's always something beautiful that came out of it.
I wanted to also say, like with the writers and what Marianne mentioned about collaborating, you know, getting that opportunity to talk with each other, because the program is interesting. It's so collaborative in so many ways, but we have to go into our groups and go into separate challenges. And so I think getting that opportunity to talk with each other to see what we wanted to tell, and also the fact that, you know, this program's gone for a while, but this class, I have to say, like, you know, we had to go through things that I don't think any class, definitely no class before has. And I think in ways the new class will hopefully get to benefit from. But I do credit with the writers and all the fellows of coming together and starting fresh and doing something new and making it work. And so I think from the writing lens, it started with us having a conversation as a group. And I think all fellows came together in a way beyond the projects itself. And so I think that speaks to what we were yearning for in the past year.
Absolutely. Any other writers or anyone else want to chime in on the pivot?
Sorry.
No, perfect.
I mean, I actually think it was like a good learning experience for all of us to have to pivot so much, because that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Pivoting. And so like learning how to do that on a dime and come up with something completely new, like this is a great training ground that we all got to take advantage of, and that we still got to make something like during this year. I mean, that's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, and I'll just round it off by saying that I think early on in the process, the writers really found a community in one another, and through kind of like having to lose the projects that we were working on and come to something new, that support between us was still there. And I feel like that was a huge thing for, at least for me, I hope you guys feel the same, but a huge pillar I leaned on. And I feel like I can ask each and every one of them truly what they think, and they'll serve it to me in a nice way. But yeah, yay writers, I love you guys.
Absolutely. Great. Well, we're going to pivot a little bit ourselves now and take questions from the audience. Anyone in the audience is welcome to keep popping questions into the box, but I'm going to start with one for a very specific person, for Nyla, the editor of Hollow. Jesse from the audience loved the languorous feel that you created because of how long you held on certain shots. Can you speak to how you created the editing rhythm of Hollow?
Yourself, hi Jesse. That was really, really a collaboration between Diante and I, because we kind of sat on opposite ends of the spectrum. So I was like, let's chop everything up. And he's like, no, let's hold everything forever. And we ended up landing somewhere in the middle. And I think by collaborating the way we did, it ended up magic.
Totally. Diante, do you want to speak on that at all for Jesse?
I just want to say that Nyla's the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Well, that will absolutely suffice. I've got a couple of questions from the audience bubbling up about what sort of the positive aspects of sort of shooting in a pandemic were. I know you kind of spoke to how the limits spurred this inspiration, but are there any specific filmmaking skills that you folks are going to take forward in your practice in the future, even though it started under maybe not the most ideal circumstances? Anything you learned that you're taking forward?
Well, only direct from home. That's it.
I'd like to speak to one part of the program that maybe like people watching don't know completely about, but we did have a mentorship component. And I think you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I can speak for the other CEs that for us, like that element was really incredible. And I know for myself, really transformed this experience for me. And I don't know that without the pandemic that we would have had access to the person that was our mentor and in such a like regular, consistent way. So for me, like that experience was worth like all of the harder elements. I mean, I didn't have to film anything, so my job was easier for sure. But yeah, the mentorship component was incredible. And I just don't think you would get that in another year.
I'd love to build on that. Yes, 100% agree. I think both the closeness that we were able to build with one another, I think that in some ways, even though we were forced to be apart, in some ways that made us put in the extra effort to show up for one another in ways that that may not have happened if we were all in person. And so in some ways, even though I haven't seen most of these people from from the neck down ever, or at least in over a year, I feel really connected. And that feels really special and lucky. And I didn't expect that when we all had to go into our caves, that it would actually in some ways allow for more opportunities to connect.
Yeah, I don't know what to say as a third CE. Like Greta and Jen, you said it all greatly. So I just ditto, I guess.
That works perfectly. Yeah, and we're all here tonight from far-flung places on the globe. So totally agree that there are definitely upsides. Another question about challenges, but this one is antithetical in that it is any challenges that you experienced in development that were not related to the COVID restrictions. So CEs or writers, what were some of the toughest parts of your development process?
I can speak again.
Sure, please.
I prior to this, I was a programmer and always was. These people were not people I saw in my day-to-day life. I had a lot of distance from this experience, and managing people, managing their expectations, managing, you know, the movie that exists in the writer's head and the director's head and the producer's head. That was a real challenge for me too, managing my own expectations, you know. So I think I don't know about the other guys, but for me, I learned a lot about how to talk to people, how to collaborate with people in a way that I think only this kind of, like hot oven experience can give you.
Yeah, to go off what Greta said, just like as a CE, being comfortable saying no to people and dealing with like the ramifications of that, because like you don't want to kill a dream, but at the end of the day, like you have to keep it grounded and have to remind people of the North Star. So that's my 2 cents.
I'll throw in the third seat hat. We're just going around in a circle now. I think accompaniment. I mean, as creative executives, we're accompanying the visions and dreams in a way that like really requires a lot of balance between like trying to be realistic and also trying not to be, a downer. I'm pretty sure I was like, we need to get rid of the Raven, like in Yugen. I was like, we can't spend so much money on that. And I think Greta had a similar experience with Blackout. And so it was an interesting learning experience of like, how much of yourself to insert and how much accompanying you're doing with the rest of the team. And so, and that was really cool.
Like to jump in from the other end of it, the post side, I think we did a lot of having to manage the movie everyone thought they made versus the movie we actually end up with. And I think that's the part that we don't talk about as much. In some cases, you end up having to completely throw out the script, and sometimes it lines up perfectly. So, which I would love to speak about. Yep.
I would love to speak on that. Not that just because of the nature of Yugen and the way that we had to shoot it, it was very much sometimes felt on the fly shooting because we were in public locations at public parks. So a lot of things had to be rearranged and edited. And we did a lot of, for our team in particular, we did a lot of test screenings. We showed the film to just different friend groups, people also in the industry. We got a lot of opinions. We wanted to make sure that the film we were telling was like coming across the way we wanted to come across. And we had to like come together as a group and like decide like, what is the film that we're actually trying to say? So that was very interesting. That was something that I had never really experienced before as an editor. So that was great learning experience for me.
Yeah, and any writers want to speak more to your experience in the development process, the challenges that were non-COVID related, or if there were any, maybe that usurped the whole or the whole idea.
Yeah, I wanted to, I think there were a lot of challenges that we faced in development through COVID, but also just changing structure and all of that. But as Miriam mentioned, like wanting to shout out Ruth Atkinson for being a huge part for the writers in the development process, because while we did get a chance to talk as writers, and I'm appreciative of that, like Ruth championed each project independently while also showing up for us as a group. And that is, the program doesn't have a lot of opportunities for that because everyone's moving so quickly. So Ruth, I shout out Ruth for a lot of that development. She heard us out. She did phone calls with people, and she also did a great job of like going to, the version of the one we wanted to make, and also having to say no to dreams. She found that kind of like, well, what can we do to make this work on the writing side, knowing that things will change. And so I know I speak for the other writers too for Ruth. She's definitely a star.
Great. Well, we have a challenging question from someone in the audience. Bill wonders, what message did you want your viewers to get from each of your films? And as an extra bonus challenge, do it in a word or brief phrase, LOL. So please, anyone can jump in. Directors can start if you like, but of course, everyone had a stake in what you wanted sort of people to get out of your film. So extra points for one word, a brief phrase also works.
I would say like renewal.
That couldn't possibly be it for all these different shorts.
I would say for Yugen that nature is king, that's really all you need.
I would say faith or hope. Much of what Omolara is about is talking about faith, moving forward with faith that things will work out, that, you know, it's contingent on hope. So just to believe that it will work out, and it may work out, but you never know what's going to happen. So faith.
For Alma Paz, this is a joint word from me and Chris. I think she would approve. Magic.
Nice. For Blackout, I would say survive, keep fighting.
Nice.
I'm going to be super lame and say that for Yugen, it's Yugen.
I was going to say the same thing. So
that's perfect.
Working
It was
out.
handed to you. You just beat Bill. You beat his question there. Yeah.
You know, for Yugen and Blackout, I'm gonna go ahead and just say perseverance, which I think honestly that's a theme for all of us here in, you know, through the entire 2020 process.
Absolutely. Anyone else? I would pick a word for the bunch, and I would say just resilience shown through both just seeing the films themselves, but to be here with you tonight. It's proof that you did it, and I would like to offer my congratulations. I'm sure everyone in the audience is cheering for you. And thank you for everyone joining tonight from the fellows from 2020. I'll give you my applause from far, far away. And I'll turn it back over to Dea and Francisco to close this out. But thanks to the audience for joining us and asking your questions. And thanks to the fellows and congratulations on your resilience and these fabulous, fabulous, fabulous shorts.
And we want to thank you, Ash, for doing such a fantastic job of guiding this group of people who with different stories, but you know, making sense of it all. And I'm just like, man, when I grow up, I want to be like Ash. So thank you very much. You did an awesome job. Yeah, the last words are yours.
Well, that's just a thank you. This was a thank you also to Film Independent for giving us this platform to be able to come together virtually, since we can't do that in person quite yet. And a thank you to all the fellows. I know last year was insane, but at least for me, like this program was definitely something that kept me grounded, and working with all of you was such a joy. So congratulations. And I can't wait to see what happens next with all of you.